Let's kick off the member stories for Connections Conference 2022. I'm going to pass this on over to Laura.
So I just wanted to take the time really quick just to talk a little bit about the Office of Individual and Family Affairs. We go by OIFA. Our role is really to support members and their families. We help members and families with navigating the system and understanding what services and supports are available. We help with advocacy. We have a member advocacy committee. We also encourage individuals to take civic leadership trainings and become advocates for themselves. We really want to empower, engage, and educate with our members and their families through events such as this one. And we also oversee the delivery of peer and family support services to make sure that we are always really recognizing that it's an important service to have and also to improve and innovate it as we continue down and continue to grow it as an OIFA department. Our belief is that members and families have a choice in the services that they receive and also have a voice and valuable input to share with our system. If you need any support from the OIFA team, again, our email is oifateam@mercycareaz.org. And then another way to stay connected to OIFA is just through the Access OIFA newsletter. There's 3 different ways you can join. If you have your phone out and you have text messaging, you can text OIFA list to 22828. You can subscribe at this bit.ly link, which Isha just posted in the chat. Or if you want to get real technical with it, you can bring out your cell phone camera and you can take a picture of this little square thing and the website link should pop up for you. So this newsletter just talks about community events, committees you can join, and policies that are up for public comment. And it's really great, resourceful information. I check it every Friday. So just a once a week email as well. So now without further ado, I want to introduce you guys all to Jeff Davila. He's a local filmmaker and peer support specialist. Jeff was brought into the mental health community by chance over 10 years ago. Since then, he's worked to bring ideas of recovery and filmmaking together. He currently works for Recovery Empowerment Network as the public relations coordinator, and he's also the facilitator of the Recovery Reels program. In addition, he owns Davila Productions and produces promotional material and independent films in Arizona. So take it away, Jeff.
Thank you so much, Laura. This is very exciting and very humbling. I'm very excited to be a part of this and to be able to host one of you guys' segments. Really, I truly appreciate it. So once again, my name is Jeff, and I do work over at Recovery Empowerment Network. We're coming to you from our hero department right now with quite a few people around me. Really excited to see all these videos that we've been working on together. And so a little bit about myself and like what brought me into filmmaking and why I think filmmaking is such a crucial part of recovery and should be a crucial part of recovery. I've wanted to be a filmmaker my entire life. It's the only passion and the only dream that I've ever had. And growing up, I was raised in a single parent household by my mother, who raised my brother and I always felt like I never was able to accomplish my goal. Like I didn't have the resources or the capability or any of the know-how at my disposal to make my dreams become a reality. And that was very discouraging and very difficult for me as a young man trying to cope with what I was going to do. But finally, after I graduated high school, I decided to go to school and study filmmaking. And I felt very much, not sure if any of you have ever heard of the term imposter syndrome, but I felt very much like an imposter in that world. Like I didn't belong and like I didn't really have any know-how. There was people I was around who were making films since they were little teens, and I was just there with no equipment, no resources, nobody I knew in the industry, just somebody who wanted to make a dream happen and wanted to become a filmmaker. And so I studied since 2008 and got finally my bachelor's degree in 2018 from Arizona State University with a degree in film and media production with an emphasis on producing. After I left there, I went over to Recovery Empowerment Network, where I started to utilize my skills in facilitating small groups and then eventually going on to creating recovery reels, which I'll talk about a little bit later. Basically, for the time being, though, what I do outside of REN is I do run my own production company, and I've had the very great fortune of working with some really incredible people, some two people who really stand out that deserve a lot of recognition are Monica and Demario over at Mercy Care, who have just really been so warm and welcoming and bringing me into their space and allowing me to work with them on so many projects. But I've also worked with RI International, NAMI. I've also done fashion shoots for Iconic Life magazine, which is stationed out here. They're like a luxury and lifestyle magazine. And then I also write, direct, and produce my own short films and feature films out here. So I stay pretty busy. And basically since 2020, since the start of COVID, I really began purchasing and building my own film equipment. And my as of right now, I'm up to about $11,000 to $12,000 in film equipment that I bring into Ren, our members use, and then I also use on outside of here for my own individual projects, which two of them you'll see very soon. I think that's probably enough about me, because I know that there's some really awesome videos that we need to watch and talk about, because that's really where the meat of this presentation is going to be at.
The flow of the presentations, and just so everyone's aware that's attending, after each person's video, we're going to open it up for questions, feedback. Have about 5 minutes of that, 3 to 5 minutes, and then we'll go on to the next video. And the goal of that is just so that you can interact with the individual. If you have specific questions about their recovery journey, I'm sure they welcome those questions and hope that their video and their story can inspire you as well. We also did have a worksheet that we're going to be putting in the chat, so that if anybody wants to maybe work on their story or articulate it or hone it down to get ready maybe to share in a video or on social media or with others, there's a worksheet that we're putting in there that allows you the opportunity to kind of work on that, so that it's a very articulated story, kind of similar to how we're presenting them today.
If I could talk to myself back at my lowest point was when my husband and I both got fired from our jobs within a few months of each other. And I wanted to kill myself. I didn't really want to die. I had a good life. And yet that pain, nothing was touching it. I just thought nobody or no one can help me. We tried so many different medications. I was hospitalized 4 times in 5 months, and that had never happened in my life. I'd get out of the hospital for a while and I'd go to my appointments, and I liked the clinic. I liked my case manager and my provider, and yet the depression was so pervasive. My family came to visit me, and my friends and family. The case manager, the psychiatric nurse practitioner, always encouraged me. And I didn't have much encouragement for myself at the time. So that was the beginning of benefiting from services. Rehab specialist at my clinic called me out of the blue. I said, well, I'm thinking about going to work at Fry's. What should I do? What should I wear? And he just encouraged me in that phone call, and he said, would you like to be involved in supported employment? And he described, they help you get a job, they help you keep a job through job coaching. And I said, sure, I'd like to do that. And that was how that happened. Well, finding a job helps me every day with my recovery, whether I'm at work or not, because I only work 14 to 18 hours a week. So I told the rehab specialist I'd like to work as a courtesy clerk. Even though I work just 3 days a week, in between those days, sometimes I think about work. Oh, I'm excited to go to work. I feel excitement. I feel really alive working. I enjoy people, and I really enjoy talking with people. And yet now with recovery, I can more meaningfully participate in life. Those thoughts that are so painful about myself mainly have gone away. They don't come up in my mind. I feel purpose. If I could talk to myself back at my lowest point, I would say, Rosie, honey, I know you hurt so much, and that pain is real. The pain is not going to be your whole life, though. It feels like it right now, and it feels like nobody can help you. And yet there is a lot of help out there. Just keep looking. Leave no stone unturned. Talk to people, talk to people. Ask for help. Talk to other peers. Ask them who has helped them. You know, I would tell myself never to give up And I would tell myself, don't forget to have fun. Have lots of fun.
Thank you so much, Jeff. Rosie, do you have anything that maybe you want to add or any additional pieces to your story? Because your story inspires me with, how, the things that you've overcome and you're able to still find so much joy in what you're doing. And so I just would love to hear what you have to say.
Sure, certainly. I was thinking today, I worked this morning, and my brother is coming to town unexpectedly. He called me, and he's coming from out of state. And so I asked for 3 days off while he's going to be here. And, I wrote a little note to my manager, and I filled out the form online. And she was at work later, and she saw me, and she said, "Oh yeah, Rosie, you can have those days off." It was no big deal. And I just wanted to tell that story because when I first started work in February, I needed to request some time off for a wedding. And I was scared, and I thought, oh, I can't request Wednesday, that's senior day at Fry's. And I'm a new employee. I can't be requesting time off. And it just feels so good now in these 4 months that I've worked that my confidence has grown. I asked for the time off. On my request, I didn't have to say, I know it's senior day, and I know I'm asking at the last minute, and be all apologetic like I normally would. I tell that story just because, I don't know, I just feel like a recovery thing is knowing I'm a valuable person. I'm a valuable employee to them. And they're a valuable employer to me. It's a two-way street. And, I just thought the worst I can do is say no. But that anxiety about asking for what I want really decreased. And that was a lovely thing to have happen today. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Rosie. Does anyone have any questions or feedback for Rosie? Feel free to raise your hand and we can take you off of mute or put it in the chat. I do see that we had a lot of feedback here like, oh, thank you so much for sharing your story, Rosie. So glad to hear of your success and confidence, all of that. So that's wonderful.
Thank you.
So one question I do have for Rosie, for you, is what helped you maybe overcome some of those fears? Because I know you talked about being scared in the beginning of going to work. What helped you kind of overcome some of that?
My job coach, Christy. In the video, you could see a little bit of Christy. This is my first time having a job coach. And I'm 60 years old, and one of my jobs years ago, I was clinical director of an SMI clinic. It's just like, and now I'm a courtesy clerk at Fry's, and I'm loving it. But yeah, I never had a job coach. When I used to work around the SMI clinics, I knew about all those services, but I kind of forgot that those services are available to me too. So yeah, my job coach, Christy, I tell her about the fears, and we talk through them, and we develop strategies. So that's what helped me.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Okay, Rosie, thank you again for your story. It's so impactful. We're going to move on, Jeff, to Brian.
I think my lowest point came in 2011, the night that my wife died. She had a heart attack, and I struggled to help her, but she ended up dying in my arms. In the end, I was basically looking in her face as she died, and as she died, I told her I loved her. That event led to really me not being able to deal with a lot of the things I had dealt with. I stopped caring about most things, and I just kind of started to exist rather than to live. I was constantly reliving what had happened. I was having flashbacks a lot. I'm currently diagnosed with schizophrenia, depressive type, and that's probably always been there. But I was always able to cope with it and deal with it. After she died, I really wasn't. My desire to really live and to not give in to the things that had been really messing with me for a long time just went away. And I started going to the clinic. I started doing a little bit of counseling and starting to learn how to start trying to cope with the loss of Amy and how to live a life without her. And they were able to help me through those flashbacks and help me get a better hold on my mental health. And I went through peer support training, and while it was hard and my health didn't exactly try to help us out, I was able to get through that class in October of 2018, which is significant because Amy and I were married in October of 2010. So it was the same month that these two life-changing things for me really occurred. Peer support has helped me on my recovery journey by putting me in a position where I could actually find work that made it so I wanted to live, that I didn't want to just merely exist anymore, that I wanted to better myself. I wanted to be better. My friend, the same friend who helped me get into services, he works as peer support as well, and I went to work for Mark Community Resource in February 2019. That's the key focus of my job now, is helping people get past something I had to get past. As you go through hard times, you become stronger for the things you've gone through. Today I have a new family, and I have a little girl who now calls me dad. That's something I never thought would happen in my life, and it's something I'm very grateful for. The idea of exist has changed for me. I have things I can do. I have things I have to do. I have things that I want to do that are more than being lost in some virtual world. What would I say to somebody who's going through what I've been through? It sucks, and it's okay to admit it sucks. So many people want you to be able to be strong or to be able to be okay because they're uncomfortable. But it's okay to not be okay after you've been through something like that. It's okay to need to work on who you are again and to find your way. And it's not on somebody else's timeline. It's on your timeline, and it may take a while, and that's okay. Is a lot of times I look at the loss of my wife as paying the rainbow toll. In Norse tradition, the concept of when we move on to the next life, you cross the rainbow bridge. Imagine that being a toll bridge. And that toll that's paid is the happy memories that you have of the life that you had with someone. The ability to keep that person alive through your memories and through the feelings you had for them and through your heart.
Thank you so much, Brian, for that wonderful story. I know that every time I watch it, it impacts me. So wash the tears away, right? So Brian, go ahead. Why don't you add a little bit to, kind of your recovery story?
Well, I'm really not too sure what to add. I mean, I've got a great opportunity that I have to be able to be working in the field right now, the field of recovery, trying to help other individuals. Right now, I work with individuals who are really struggling with coming in and out of the hospital and really having a hard time, you know, blending, getting into a point where they can find what's going to be meaningful for them in the world. And it reminds me a lot of what I went through, and being able to kind of fall back on my story and the things that I went through to get to a point where I can be, functioning and working now. Really just gives me a lot of hope, and hope honestly, guys, hope is where everything is. All right. Members come into our clinics, and so often they hear what they have to do, but they don't think, they never hear there's hope that they can recover, that there's hope that they can get better. I never was told there was hope I could get better by anyone at my clinic, but you can. And I think that that's something that we all need to really just remember, that we have, no matter what's happened to anyone, there's always hope that things can be better.
Thank you so much, Brian. We do have some great feedback too in the chat. One person says, I love that you're using the wisdom and life experience you have gained to help and comfort others who aren't as far along in recovery as you are. Thank you. Just lots of thanks for sharing your story. If anyone does have any specific questions, feel free to take your, self off of, use the raise hand and we can take you off mute or put it in the chat. We will have an end kind of Q&A session as well for the panelists if you want to ask them any questions at all. So feel free to do that as well.
A few things before I jump into Recovery Reels and the primary work that I do over here at Recovery Empowerment Network. There's something about those two videos that always really speak to me, and why I feel film is such a beautiful art form and so necessary for peer support and mental health. And that's that, at least for myself, when going through my own story, is being able to share my story in a unique way. And I feel that film empowers people to not just tell their stories, but to express their stories through a visual medium that allows us to see a more resilient side of themselves. Growing up watching movies, I remember I'd watch The Goonies, and I would always think to myself, man, what an incredible feeling to have been there on set when they're filming these scenes, and not to just be able to look back and see what you filmed, but also to look back on those moments where you're like, man, I remember that day where we were trying to get that car to start and it just wouldn't work the right way we wanted to. Or I remember we went out to the beach line and the shore was all receded and we couldn't get the exact shot we want, but we still made the shot happen. And those little moments, those little things that I remember from being back on set. I remember that day when we were filming with Cammie. We had some really gorgeous moments with Brian and with Rosie. And to be able to see those things play out also in a film, but then also to have those memories of being together on set and working through those challenges is really what I think film, why it's so useful and such an incredible piece and tool for everybody to use. So it's something that really is near and dear to my heart, and why I've taken on so much film in my life in terms of my recovery journey, and then also trying to teach others on how to tell their stories in unique ways. So I have a little form here that I want to share with you guys, just so you can kind of get an idea of what Recovery Reels is. Basically, it's gonna become now a 7-week program. It was 6 weeks before, but it'll be 7 weeks of actual intensive filmmaking for members here at Ren. And a lot of the people who come into this program, some of them have probably never even used the camera features on their cell phones, let alone used an actual filmmaking camera like the one that I have right here. This is my pride and joy that goes with me everywhere. So it's something that I worked very hard on. I think I wrote the program in about 6 months. But this little diagram here will kind of show you guys a little bit about like how the program actually works. So if you'll look right up here at the very top part where it says Recovery Reels class structure, essentially it's going to be 7 weeks long here in a bit, but this one I made it out to being the 6-week long process. But basically it's 1 week of pre-production. Now, I don't know if any of you in this conference right now have ever actually written a film script, but it does not look like your typical novel or essay or something you would have made at community college like I made a million times over using MLA format. A film script actually follows a very specific set of guidelines that I teach to the members, and we use a program called Final Draft, which helps them to actually understand how that process works, how to write dialogue, how to write characters, when to introduce characters, story structures, outlines, all those different things happen in that very first week. And the way I like to think about the 3 most important parts of that process, the pre-production, would be creative thinking, imagination, and then becoming the hero. So for creative thinking, I think that's incredibly important because a lot of us understand how our stories play in our minds, but this part of the program is about getting that process of what it looks like in your mind onto a piece of paper so that everybody else around us can see what it is you're trying to tell, can see the story that usually only plays in your head, but now has to actually play in front of an audience to be able to see. And I think that's where the creative thinking really comes into play. The second part would be imagination, something that unfortunately a lot of us lose as we get older, but filmmaking is truly the most imaginative form of art you can create. They create entire universes now in front of our very eyes with movies. And so bringing that imagination in, trying to find out ways that we can bring back to life a moment in time from somebody's childhood, or maybe bring back to life a hospital where somebody was at, are all parts of that imaginative process that come into the screenwriting. And then finally, the becoming the hero is incredibly important for this part because I feel many of us, myself included, view ourselves and our stories as merely side characters, or even for some of us, we might think of ourselves as the antagonist to our own story, and the antagonist being the villain. But that's completely the opposite. We're all the protagonists, the heroes of our own stories. And just like with Rosie and Brian's piece, when I made that for them, I wanted to make sure that they're showcased as the heroes. When we go through recovery reels, we make sure that everybody sees themselves as the hero of their own story. And I think the three pieces that were chosen today really exemplify that idea of becoming the hero of your own story. Secondly, we go into the second part of the class structure, which would be production. That is filming. This is the actual part where everybody comes together to actually film their own piece. So we start with 5 members. And we'll get into the crew positions down there below is actually how I divide up the people on set. So basically everyone will take on a role of director, who's the creative lead. Basically, they're the person in charge of telling everybody what they want their vision to look like and being able to articulate that, being able to actually say, this is how I want it to look. And I have reasons for how I want it to look is incredibly important in directing the team and the crew beneath them. Secondly, we would have the first assistant director. That's called the first AD. That's one of the most important positions on a film set. Think about it as if the director's in charge of the creative aspect, the first AD is in charge of the business aspect. They're in charge of making sure that the film stays on budget, stays on schedule, everybody's doing what they're supposed to do. And so for our roles in recovery reels, we give them what's called the slate. I'm sure everybody has seen a slate on a film set, but they are in charge of making sure that we organize our films, make sure that we're slating and keeping track of what each shot is and how it's being filmed for later on in post-production. So an incredibly powerful role there. Third, we have our director of photography. Essentially, that is the person who operates the camera. And so I'll normally operate this big guy because it's a little bit more advanced, let's put it that way. So I have a second camera that I allow for our members to use. That's a bit more user-friendly. But we'll have 2 cameras on set at each time filming everybody's different piece. And so one of the members is the director of photography. They're in charge of deciding how they want the angles of the shot to be, where they want the camera to move to, any movement the camera might be involved in. Fourth, our position would be the gaffer. That's the person who sets up the lights. So I have a bunch of different lights that I use. And basically, I want to make sure that all members have a chance to utilize those lights. Being on a film set is an incredibly fast-paced and can be a stressful environment. And so keeping things like safety first, sandbagging our lights, making sure all the cords are taped down is incredibly important. Not to mention, we do have members who have been on our film sets who have things like epilepsy or are prone to seizures, and understanding that we need to be aware of those hazards when it comes to lighting is incredibly important. And then finally, our last position on set would be the sound mixer. And essentially that person is in charge of recording all of the audio. Audio is one of the most important parts of a film. Most people can get away with having a not so great shot image, but if your audio is very poor, if people can't understand what's being said, people will tune out very, very quickly. And so when we go to our second week of production, which is filming, each member will take on one of these 5 roles. So the director, whoever wrote their piece, will obviously be the director of theirs, and then they pick the team beneath them that will film their piece for them, and then everybody rotates through positions. throughout the process. So everybody is in all the positions at some point in time. And it really allows for everybody to get a taste of the different areas on a film set, and then also just to understand what they like, what they don't like, and how they work together. So underneath the 2 weeks of production, the three things that I think are most important in learning for our members is leadership, teamwork, and accountability. And I'm pretty sure you guys can understand the leadership and the teamwork when you're a director. It's not just about telling people what to do, but it's also about being able to be there for your team. And then finally, with teamwork, it's about showing up for somebody else. I try to create an environment where no one's single vision can be created without everybody else being there to help out. And unfortunately, life does get in the way, and sometimes people aren't always able to show up or be there on other people's sets. But it is a fact of life that filmmaking is a team effort, and you can't do it alone. And so I try to bring about that idea that only with all of us working together can each person's true and authentic vision be realized. And then finally, the accountability is, I think, one of the most important parts of this class is just being able to hold yourself accountable to something, to say, I'm going to do something for 6 weeks and make it work. And I don't know how I'm going to do it. I don't know what the finished product is going to look like, but I'm going to put myself out there and take that risk to try and make that happen for myself. And so that area of accountability is incredibly important for me to put that responsibility on individuals to hold themselves to that standard. I think it's an incredibly valuable part of recovery. And then finally, the last 3 weeks of the program is post-production, and that is probably our most difficult part of the whole process. Some of the members that I've worked with have never even started their own Google email account, let alone opened up Microsoft Word. And now we're going into the process of editing a short film using Premiere Pro. Really gives me a good chance to practice my patience and also just to help people to learn a new skill set. With the way technology is advancing in our current day and age, learning how to use a computer and what a mouse is and how to save a project and how to organize files is invaluable and a useful skill for anybody, regardless of your age or where you're at in your recovery. So for that part of the production process, post-production, the three areas I thought were most important are time management, problem solving, and perseverance. This is all individualized editing with me. After we're done with filming, everyone edits with me on an individualized basis. So that's up for members to work with me to create a schedule that they will follow so that they can come in and get optimal amount of time to actually edit their piece. I'd say it takes at least 8 to 10 hours per piece to be completed in terms of editing. And that's only bare minimum stuff. I could stretch this whole program out for about 6 months if I really wanted to. But it's just, we have to make things move along as quickly as possible. The second one would be problem solving. I think this one is probably the most important for this area because after we have taken our story from our minds and onto a piece of paper that then we can show to people, and then after we've taken that piece of paper around and actually filmed everything we want from that piece of paper, now comes a part where essentially we have all these little puzzle pieces or clips from the camera that we now have to figure out how they're going to fit together. And I don't know how many of you have ever seen a movie. I'm going to assume that probably everyone has seen a movie that's watching this right now. But a very famous film director, whose name is Quentin Tarantino, he has said that a film is written in 3 different forms. It's first written on paper, and then it's written on the studio, and then it's written on the computer in editing. And so we definitely go through the process of writing these stories 3 different times. And the post-production process, the editing process, is the final piece of when the story is completed. And it really is trying to fit together all these pieces of a puzzle when you don't actually have an idea of what the final image will look like. You're going off of your instincts, you're going off of your faith, and you're going off of your ability to actually create something out of thin air. And I think that's just an amazing thing to see, and an overwhelming feeling of accomplishment for those who do come through with their videos at the end. And then finally, perseverance, obviously, to actually push yourselves through this program. It is not an easy program. I did not design it to be easy. I did not want it to be easy. This is something that I want the people who do come away with a finished piece to feel proud and to feel like they actually did something that they couldn't do before. And so that's why it's a very important thing for me. I'm very passionate about it. I love this program very much. It really is my baby over here at Ren, and that's a bit about what that program is. Are there questions about the program before we launch into actually watching some of these videos?
It looks like there are.
I see one here. Is this class available to the community or only through a referral to Ren? As of right now, it is only available as a referral to Ren. My CEO and I, April, we're working on different ways of how we can get it out into the community. But as of right now, it's strictly through Ren. I teach the class as of right now 3 times a year, but we're trying to get it around to being 4 times a year. So, and each time after I finish one program, I'm pretty emotionally exhausted. So I need about a month and a half to kind of relax for a second before I start the next one up. It's always a fun, enjoyable experience. It would be fun to make a documentary of the class itself, because that in and of itself could be a really interesting movie. Always fun, but that's a great question. It is only right now through Ren. Let's see here. What is done with the films afterwards? So as of right now, we're still working on that, actually. I'm really happy to announce that with the help of one of our members who's here right now, you'll meet her in a second. With the help of her, seven of our films got into a local film festival called Valor Film Festival. And that was an incredibly humbling and honoring experience for myself. A member and I actually went to the film festival to watch everybody's films being shown. And just to know that like we had created something that was willing to be accepted into a film festival was just amazing. And we hope to submit more films to more festivals as we can. It can become pricey because usually sometimes as you send in films to film festivals, they do require admission fees or things like that, which then even if you don't get in, you know, kind of sucks. But at the end of the day, you just got to put them out there. All of the videos are on the Recovery Empowerment Network website to be viewed. It's under one of the tabs there, under events. So that's another way to watch them. And then as of right now, we're just kind of working. It's still very much in its infancy what we're doing here. And so we hope to get those out to the public much more frequently. So I appreciate that. The next class is in August. It's this coming August 8th, I believe. I'll have to take a look at my calendar as I watch the next video. But yes, it'll be early August is the next class. So that will be, I'll start advertising for that very soon.
How long have you guys been doing this at Ren? Because this is the first time I've heard of it, and I know you were one of the people that taught me about doing film stuff, but I'm good for now. It's not like I didn't want to make any other films for the time being.
So I only recently started this program. I'd say it's probably less than 2 years old as of right now. Probably even less than that, maybe a year and a half. We've only done 4 versions of it. And this one is a bit different than the one that you and I did way long ago, Daniel. So it's definitely a whole different kind of premise, whole different formatting that I created for it. But it's very new. It's very much in its infancy. And that's kind of like why it's so exciting. It's, you know, we're treading new water here. We're kind of blazing our own trail. And I was telling my members who are here with me right now, like it's incredibly exciting to be a part of this. So it's very, very new.
How is a referral made to Ren?
So our referral process would go through Sarah or Steven upstairs. It's something that I don't have too much information on. So I would have to get in touch with one of them. I do know that you can register for referral off of our website.
I believe that you can just talk to your case manager or call Ren and they can help you through the process. Probably if they call your website, your numbers on your website and ask, I'm sure they would walk them through that process if they need help. The other thing too is that if you're attending other peer runs, you can attend all the peer runs if you like. Let's say you like meditation at Cheers and you like the yoga classes at Star, but then you want to go to recovery reels at Ren, you can do that. You're not limited to just going to one event at one peer run. So that's pretty awesome too. So thank you. Dorothy has her hand up, so I'm going to take her off mute.
Dorothy Thompson from Lifewell South Mountain Clinic. I'm a rehab specialist. I referred someone to Ren in the last couple of weeks. I was not aware about the filmmaking, but that's exactly what my client is wanting. So it makes me excited. I did refer him to the Hero program because of his age, because the young adults, Ren has a young adult program called Hero. So I'm excited. I'll let him know that the next class will be in August. But regarding a referral, as long as the client has all their annual paperwork, like their treatment plan, their at-risk crisis plan, their comprehensive assessment, those things done with their case manager, either the rehab specialist or case manager can do a referral. It's really simple. And what's great is the staff over at Ren, as soon as they get the referral, they send us a email back saying we received it, and a staff will reach out to the client. So definitely, if you put in a referral, if someone puts in a referral for you, you want to check your voice messages.
Thank you so much, Dorothy.
Awesome. So I'll go ahead and link up this very next video. This one is going to be written and directed by Mr. Monty Mendoza, and it's called One Person Can Make a Difference.
It all started with a short story. What I thought was a creative writing assignment turned out to be a life-changing event. After I wrote that story, I began picking up one piece of trash every day. Soon after that, I was picking up more and more trash each day. But since 1974, I've picked up thousands of pounds of trash. I lost that story long ago, but the inspiration it gave me inspires me to keep going out every day and pick up more trash. I will only pick up trash if I have a plastic bag with me or if there's a trash can nearby. Some of the most common things I pick up are cigarette butts, cups, straws, bottles, aluminum cans, food packaging, and broken glass. I've been picking up trash for over 45 years. It has been my primary way of contributing to the earth and to the people that live on it. I pray that I'll have the ability to continue this beneficial endeavor for many, many years to come. One person can make a difference.
So that was One Person Can Make a Difference, and who I have with me here is Mr. Monty Mendoza, the writer and director of that piece. So Monty, would you mind just telling us a little bit about that piece, why you wanted to make it, why it was important to you?
Well, I'm over 60 years old. Ever since I was a kid in grade school, picking up trash has been one of the most important things to me, helping the environment. I've seen so many people just throw things on the ground and it's no big thing to them. But usually I'm there right behind them picking it up, whatever they're dropping. Because I have a low tolerance for trash and for littering. But I just think I definitely have helped the environment a lot. And other people like me do the same thing all around the world. So
Where do you usually pick up trash at? I know you have a few specific spots.
not really. I mean, today I picked up probably like 50 things. Bus stops on the way to Ren, the light rail station, Circle K, just basically wherever I'm standing, as long as there's a trash can there.
What can you tell us a little bit about like making this piece for yourself? Like what was going through? I know it's been a while since you've done the program.
Yeah.
Monty, and then the other video that we're going to show, They were in the very first program that we made. So like we were literally on training wheels, like figuring it all out as we went. But like, just what was the process of going through making a movie like for you?
It was exciting. It was all new to me, really. I've worked with a camera before, just a basic camera, but nothing like the equipment that you have. And just the sound equipment was neat. The lighting was new to me. Having a director, I guess I was a director.
You were the director.
Yeah, you were the producer.
I was the producer. That's right.
But all your ideas were very helpful, especially in editing. Editing, like you said, is the most difficult part. If we had to do that ourselves, it would be nearly impossible, because that's such a complex program. But with your guidance, you'd show us how to do it, and you'd undo what you did, and then we'd have to do it ourselves after that.
My favorite thing to do.
I know, you tortured us.
Does anybody have any questions for Monty about his piece? We got a lot of praise on here, Monty, for you.
We have Jacqueline with her hand up. I'm going to unmute.
You know, your story is inspirational, as all three were. I appreciate you sharing with us, with me in general. It's definitely inspiring. So I do thank you for that.
Thank you. If you do remember that question, just raise your hand again. I'd be happy to answer it for you. Awesome. Monty, is there anything else you'd like to add about your piece?
Well, the last science says you can make a difference, and that's what it's all about. Not just, well, basically you can make a difference.
Right.
Everybody can. Just picking up one thing, like the way it started with my short story back in '74. If we all did that, there'd be hardly any trash anywhere.
I had a question. How inspiring for what you're doing. Does anybody ever stop and watch you and start helping out? And if not, or if so, have you ever thought about wearing T-shirts so people can kind of go, oh, wow. And maybe you would inspire more people that way.
But people do help out. The most common thing, though, is people thanking me for picking it up. People might just say, I really appreciate what you're doing. A lot of them will say, I feel bad that the people throw it there in the first place. And one of the worst things is bus stops. Some people just totally trash the area. I know that I'm taking away people's jobs when I pick up their trash, because there's somebody that's job is to go there and pick that up. But I figure, I'm sure they wouldn't mind.
I'm sure you're still doing a very good thing. So don't worry about that.
I think it's better than me adding to the trash. And then also one thing positive, in the last month or so, I had to make a choice between two bus stops. So I just in my mind said, okay, I'll go to this one. And when I went to that bus stop, there's $20 on the ground, which is the most I've ever encountered while picking up trash, because I was picking up trash there also. So that was kind of like, I get rewards like that every now and then. Usually it's only a dime or a quarter, but that was my big payday. But people are very thankful when they, not everybody obviously, but some people will take the time and some people also will look at me and think, what the heck are you doing? You realize how many germs are, because I pick it up with my hands, usually like 90% of the time. But then I do have a hand sanitizer I use later.
You're a tough guy though, Monty.
I personally think I'm immune to germs because I've been doing it for so long.
One thing before Monty does go is that Monty was the person who accompanied me to the film festival, and so like being able to sit there with Monty and watch like everybody's films on a big screen, and like it was just something really special. And like for me, I remember the very first time I saw my film on a big screen, and like the feeling of accomplishment and just knowing that I had created that out of nothing was so important to me. And so like seeing all of you guys' videos made me very happy. So that was really awesome.
I thank you for everything you did for us. Awesome.
Thanks, Monty.
Very much.
All right, I'll go ahead and queue up the very next video. The next one we're gonna watch is The Overcoming Warrior, and that's written and directed by Miss Karina Avalos.
From the day I was born, before I was 7 years old, I was a smart and joyful child. But when I was 7 years old, I fell from a bike, hit my head, and had a concussion / comatose, and was taken to St. Joseph Hospital in a helicopter. However, the doctors did say that I would pretty much die, not make it. But my mom never lost faith. She would go and pray. She knew I would wake up, and yes, I did wake up, but I woke up having seizures. Growing up In school, it was hard making friends. Nobody liked to hang around me because I hear voices, I see things, I had crisis. Everybody thought I was weird and would push me around. The only true friend I ever had was my mom, because most of my life I only lived with my mom. It was just me and her. My father left when I was 15 years old. I had my quinceañera without him. My mom was the only person who could make the quinceañera. It wasn't something huge or big. My aunts did come and I was really, really happy. We celebrated all together. I was the happiest person, loving person, never give up on anyone, to never give up on my own dreams, and to always be strong and brave. That's why here at Recovery Empowerment Network, I will always be here for anyone who needs me and anyone who knows me outside of here. Just come up to me and get some advice. I'm always willing to help others, just like I wanted to help my mom. My mom in July 19th of 2020 sadly passed away, but she will always be in my heart, no matter what. Thanks to her advice, I am no longer any kind of, anger, hatred towards no one, because I love the world thanks to her. I have finally become the overcoming warrior she wanted me to be.
All right, so I'm sitting here with the writer and director of that film, Miss Karina Avalos. So, Karina, tell me a little bit about your film, why you wanted to do that, what made you go down that route of telling that story of yourself.
I want to say hi to everyone first, and just to say that what really inspired me to go in and do those videos was that in that moment, I had just lost my mom. I didn't have advice. I didn't have people around me all the time. So I guess that kind of helped with my grieving process. I did have a lot of issues there because I do suffer from seizures and sometimes I would have them. But either way, I just want my story to touch other people out there who sometimes don't have friends, no one likes to be with them, around them, because they're different. But different is good. For us, different is being somebody in the world. And my mom always taught me that.
And it's Karina here, she's one of only two students of the class who have gone through and made two videos, right? So she's gone through it twice. Her second video, called Gracias por tu amor, did I say that right?
Yeah.
Is she did that one completely in Spanish, and so it's fun for us to put in subtitles to that whole piece.
It was hard though.
Yeah, it was, wasn't it? But that's okay. It was a good challenge for us. So she has created actually two films, and both of her films made it into that film festival that I submitted them all to, and it was really great to see all of them. I know Karina got a lot of praise from the people up there about her two films. And so hopefully a third one in Karina's trilogy will come through. Does anybody have any questions for Karina or her piece?
Doesn't look like we have any questions, but we do have a lot of wonderful comments. Thanking you for sharing your story, Karina, and your comment about different is good and how we need to kind of embrace that. And so thank you for sharing that.
I do see one question on here from Daniel for Karina, and he just asked, did you enjoy making it? Can you just tell us? Because Karina also, just like Monty, was in the very first class that we ever did. So once again, like coming right off on training wheels, even I was like brand new at teaching this. So like, what was that process like for you?
I really, really did love and enjoy it because I got to, like Jeff said, we split everything through the team. And when we go into the class, we become a team. It's like Arthur and the Knights of the Round Table.
Okay.
We're each working on something, but we're helping that person. So sometimes I would help Jeff over here to do, like, if there was cables on the floor, I would like to put tape and make sure it was safe.
Well, do you remember that you organized all my film gear for me?
Of course.
Yeah, don't you remember? Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was a fun one. I have a lot of film gear. We have about 5 different bags that we got to go through, so it's always a process. What else? Anything else from the process of making your films?
It was also a very difficult for the first one because I did have like 3 seizures. And my health, like depression wise, it was very, very, very up and down. I do get bipolar disorder, so it does. Sometimes I came in crying, sometimes I came in really mad, but Jeff and the rest were very patient and they loved that.
This person right here, Monica, they asked what was the hardest thing about making it. Would you say that would be the hardest thing, just going through those?
Going through the emotions, the seizures, and going home as well. I only have one person at home, my aunt, and she at first didn't understand it, everything I was going through. But going home, I felt like I was being on pressure. And then suddenly, when I come to Ren, it just releases everything. So through the movie, it helped me release a lot of pain that I have right now.
I think we'll probably move on to our very last video for the day. Just that way we have enough time to talk about that, and then also for any questions and comments later on. So this very last film we're going to be showing is called Breaking the Silence, and it was written and directed by Esther Ann Brewer.
PTSD is most commonly associated with veterans. Although I'm not a military vet, I lived through another type of war. I am a survivor of sexual and mental child abuse. My earliest memory of being molested is 3. This went on until I was 14. These men were all people I was supposed to be able to trust and depend on. The most damaging part for me were all the years I had to endure these men remaining a part of the family. I had to pretend I had not been violated. I was not born with PTSD. My childhood traumas, the sexual and mental abuse built up inside of me, hidden all my childhood years, and manifest as PTSD. 6 of us were removed from the home by Child Protective Services. With all my trust in adult figures broken, I became a runaway from the state of Arizona. By 17, CPS would deem me incorrigible through the courts and return custody to my mother. I became an expert at making bad decisions. It's been 2 years since I received my diagnosis. Knowing why I react the way I do has freed me. There are still times when I feel emotionally raw. Using coping skills is imperative for my mental health. I have Diamond, my emotional support animal. I have therapists and a team of peer support specialists to talk to. Therapy has served me well in fighting the stigma of PTSD. Today, I know I am not my diagnosis. I am more than just a victim. I am not alone. I do have a voice. The abuse I endured is not my fault. My life does have value. I can trust again. I am worthy of love. Every time I speak out against my traumas, they lose power over me. Today, I know healing is possible.
So this is Esther Ann Brewer, the writer and director of that piece. Esther Ann, why don't you tell us just a little bit about why you chose your piece to be about that subject, why you wanted it, why it was important to you?
The cards came from a friend. I was going through a lot of depression, and I was putting post-its on my wall everywhere, you know, just little reminders: brush your teeth, get dressed, do something with your life, you know. And I would give myself little gold stars every time I accomplished one of my post-its. And so she got me those cards, you know, and they're real shiny to use for post-its. And I just decided to write all the subjects in my life because I was taken away in 92 and I stayed in the streets until 2015 in and out of prison, county. I'm on one of our pilot's postcards. I was in there so much. And because there's so much to choose from, you know, you only pick one subject. So I put everything in a hat and I picked that with my best friend while we were on Messenger. And so I carried it through in my film, you know, there's just too much to choose from. And it was a good subject. It's a hard subject. I don't know that it's the hardest one. It's probably the beginning of all the subjects, but
Now, Esther Ann's piece has gained a ton of traction, and like Esther Ann really has put in tons of work into that piece. And so, Esther Ann, can you tell us a little bit about what that film has done for you, what you're doing now, things like that? I think that'll lead into also your time. I saw some people asking you was.
I'm not married. I'm married to the streets. So you've seen the little TikTok cards, Instagram. I started out, I wanted to write a book and I just didn't know how to share all of that, you know, alone. And so for my birthday in 2020, I think like God gives me a present every year. And that year, like it came to me to do videos with other people out in the streets that, you know, maybe that way I could share and it wouldn't be so heavy on me. And I started TikToking or, you know, recording, and I have hundreds of hours of footage, you know. And first I thought YouTube, but that was just a really big, like, I'm so scared of editing, you know, it just seems like impossible to do. So I just kept footage. And then I went to Life Well and I did my peer support class, and I was looking at Ren for advanced peer support, and I found out about recovery reels. And I wanted help, you know, with my TikToking, my YouTubing. And so I enrolled and I came to the class and I took the recovery reels. I still haven't taken the advanced peer support yet. I need to. It's led to, I have an internship with Connect to Your City Studios. Larry Witherspoon, my producer. I'm a producer now, and like life is amazing. I have a nonprofit called Get Me Right, and the whole point is to just do outreaches. You know what I mean? Because of all the people that helped me all those years, so many years in the streets, and I thought I was never going to be okay again. You know, I was the girl on the corner that was talking to herself, that never changed, that everybody was afraid of, that even the drug addicts were afraid of, you know, that girl. And how I got better, it's a miracle, you know. And so what do I do with that, you know? And like the streets calls me, that lifestyle calls to me. it's a really grief thing when, you know, you become accustomed to that lifestyle and it's the only thing you know. And that's why I always want to go back. And going back just means a relapse, really, unless you just change the way that you think. And that's why recovery comes to the part where you have to start giving back. And this is my way of giving back. So wear the wedding dress everywhere I go. Outside of public, I have a talk show, Married to the Streets, you know. My life is just amazing now. You know what I mean? I'm a partner with St. Mary's Food Bank, and I'm just learning how to grow and outreach, how to, you know, do these things like for other people. So because I'm just grateful for being here right now, you know.
I have a question. How would someone follow you on TikTok?
Okay, you can find me at Married to the Streets. That's the gown. And it's under my name, Esther Ann Waterworth. Brew is my government name. Yeah. But if you look Married to the Streets, you'll see me in different wedding gowns. There's one that I'm in like a construction, you know, vest, but I have my hard hat and a veil on. And Instagram is Married to the Streets _AZ. YouTube is Married to the Streets, but that one's a little difficult to find. So if you put a keyword Carlos, you'll find somebody behind a brick wall and he's wearing a sweatsuit. And then I will be connect to your city. That you can Google that just in the Google bar, connect to your city. And it's a orange app. That's the network that I'm with. Right now, I'm working on my no, my talk show. Yeah, I'm working on what's the picture thing? My logo. I have to finish my logo to have my talk show start airing. So it's not there yet, but there's lots of great channels there you can.
Well, thank you so much, Esther Ann and Jeff. Don't forget to follow us on LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube. We are putting those in the chat as well. And we want to thank everyone for attending today. Thank you so much. Thank you for your inspiration to all of us.